Welcome to this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Ah, yes.
This book's kind of like a secret decoder ring for
Mhm.
understanding how power, works, how it's gained, how it's wielded
Right.
throughout history.
Mm.
We're going to encounter some fascinating figures, Louis XIV,
Oh, yeah.
Machiavelli, even P.T. Barnum. And hopefully this deep dive will equip you with some knowledge that you can apply to your own
Yeah.
situations, whether it's at work,
Burke.
relationships, or even just understanding the world a little bit better.
Well, Greene's brilliance, I think, lies in how he weaves these historical anecdotes with, these timeless laws showing
Yeah.
how the game of power has played out
Yeah.
across centuries and cultures.
Okay, let's unpack this game.
Okay.
He starts off strong with Law 1, never outshine the master.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Right.
But think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you, maybe unintentionally, stole the spotlight from someone in a position of authority? What happened?
Well, it's a delicate dance for sure, I mean, we're always kind of encouraged to strive for excellence, to showcase our talents.
Mm-hmm.
But Greene argues that when it comes to power dynamics, making your superiors feel insecure is a fatal mistake.
Yeah.
And remember, Nicolas Fouquet, Louis XIV's finance minister, he
Okay.
threw this insanely lavish party trying to, impress the king. Backfired spectacularly,
Yeah.
ended up outshining the Sun King himself, Louis XIV, not known for his, tolerance of rivals.
No.
And Fouquet ended up imprisoned for life.
That's a pretty extreme example.
It is.
But I think the underlying principle is relevant to all of us.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the psychology
Yes.
of those in power.
Yeah.
Recognizing that they might perceive talent or ambition
Absolutely.
as a threat.
As a threat.
So how do we navigate that?
Well, Breen suggests that, instead of trying to outshine your boss,
Right.
you should focus on making them feel comfortably superior.
Mhm.
And it's not about being a yes man or, brown noser or anything like that.
Right.
But it's about using flattery strategically, making them feel like they're the ones in control.
So it's almost like a game of ego management.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Sometimes even involves, appearing slightly less capable.
Right.
Making them feel needed and sought out for their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
You become indispensable not by being the best, but by making them feel like the best.
That's fascinating.
What?
It's like a judo move.
Yes.
You use your opponent's strength against them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's move on to Law 2, which I think takes us in a whole other direction.
Okay.
Greene says, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies.
Wow.
Sounds pretty ruthless, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But he makes a surprisingly compelling argument.
Okay.
Think about it. Have you ever noticed that sometimes, former enemies, once they switch sides, can actually become your most loyal allies?
Now that you mention it, I can think of a few examples from history, like Michael III of Byzantium,
Oh, yeah.
who was betrayed and murdered by his best friend Basilius. Talk about a backstabber.
Yeah, I mean, Greene argues that friends over time can kind of accumulate this resentment from too many favors.
Right.
They start to feel burdened rather than grateful. But an enemy turned ally,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a lot more to prove.
Yeah.
They're constantly trying to demonstrate their loyalty, erase any doubts about their trustworthiness.
So there's a psychological advantage to working with someone who has something to prove.
Absolutely. I mean, they're hungry, they're motivated, and they're less likely to take your support for granted.
Wow.
Greene even points to Emperor Sung of China. He cleverly manipulated his generals into giving up their commands,
Wow.
seemingly demoting them.
Right.
But in reality, he was neutralizing potential threats and consolidating his own power.
It's like a power play disguised as a demotion.
It is a brilliant example of how appearing to weaken someone can actually strengthen your own position.
It's like that saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah,
But he takes it to a whole new level.
a whole other level.
Yeah.
And remember Mao Zedong?
Yeah.
He actually saw the Japanese invasion of China as an opportunity
Wow.
to train his army.
That's a very bold way of looking at things.
He recognized that, adversity and conflict can be powerful catalysts for growth
Mm-hmm.
and consolidation of power.
Okay.
So Greene's next few laws delve into the realm of deception.
Oh.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Law 3 focuses on concealing your intentions,
Mm-hmm.
creating a smokescreen
Right.
to disguise your true motives.
Ah, the art of deception.
Yes.
That's a bit Machiavellian, but I guess it's a reality of the power game, right? I mean,
Sure.
haven't we all used a bit of deception at some point in our lives?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Poker faces, carefully worded emails,
Mm-hmm.
even the way we dress.
Yeah.
These can all be subtle forms of deception.
They are, I mean, it's about managing perceptions. Greene tells this captivating story
Yeah.
about Yellow Kid Weil, a notorious con artist who stages a fake boxing match to distract his mark while he was pulling off a completely different con horror.
Wow.
I mean, the boxing match was the perfect smokescreen.
Yeah.
It was familiar, predictable, and it lulled the mark into a false sense of security,
Right.
while Weil was orchestrating his real scheme behind the scenes.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that quote, "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled
Oh, yeah.
was convincing the world he didn't exist."
Right.
It's all about misdirection.
It is misdirection.
Yeah.
And Greene provides another fascinating example.
Okay.
Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia.
Okay.
He used feigned weakness
Hmm.
and strategic misdirection to entrap his rival Ras Bolcha,
Okay.
ultimately forcing him to surrender.
So by appearing weak, he made his opponent vulnerable.
By appearing weak and non-threatening, he disarmed his opponent.
It's like playing possum, right? Make your opponent think you're harmless until it's too late.
That's a great analogy. Greene calls this the bland exterior.
Okay.
The art of concealing your true intentions behind a mask of neutrality or even weakness.
Wow. Okay.
It's about making others work harder to decipher your motives, giving you a strategic advantage.
Okay, so we talked about outshining the master,
Mm-hmm.
using enemies to your advantage, and the power of deception.
Right.
What's next on his list of power plays?
Well, Law 4 focuses on the importance of reputation and social proof.
Okay.
It's about understanding how public perception shapes reality.
Right.
Especially when it comes to power dynamics.
Remember P.T. Barnum, the master showman?
Oh, yes.
He embraced his reputation as a deceiver,
He did.
recognizing that people have a paradoxical desire to be entertained by trickery.
Oh, yeah.
He knew that public perception was more important than reality.
Barnum was a genius at manipulating social proof. I mean, he understood that people are drawn to spectacle and illusion, and he created this aura of excitement and anticipation that made people, more willing to suspend their disbelief.
That's brilliant.
Why do we stand in line for hours to see a magic show or, a movie premiere?
Yeah.
I mean, we're drawn to that allure of the unknown,
Right.
the promise of being entertained.
And it's not just about entertainment.
Yeah.
Think about how brands use celebrity endorsements or influencer marketing
Yeah.
to create a sense of desirability around their products.
It's all about tapping into the power of collective belief,
Right.
even if that belief is based on, a carefully constructed illusion.
But there's a flip side to this, right?
Right?
What happens when public perception turns against you?
That's where things can get dangerous.
Yeah.
Greene uses the cautionary tale of Roman general Coriolanus,
Okay.
who criticizes the masses and was ultimately turned against by the very people he served.
Wow.
His downfall highlights the importance of understanding and respecting public opinion,
Yeah.
even if you disagree with it. In the game of power, perception is often more important than reality.
So you have to be careful not to alienate the very people that you're trying to influence.
You do.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
And Greene provides a fascinating contrast to Coriolanus with P.T. Barnum's later career.
Okay.
After initially building his reputation on spectacle and deception, he shifted his focus to promoting social causes and philanthropic endeavors.
Interesting.
He understood that public perception is fluid
Yeah.
and that you can leverage your reputation for one thing to achieve something completely different.
So it's not just about creating an image.
Right.
It's about understanding how to adapt and evolve that image over time.
Precisely. It's about being aware of the social currents, the
Yeah.
shifting tides of public opinion, and knowing how to navigate those waters effectively.
Okay, let's dive into Law 5.
Okay.
This one seems particularly relevant in a world where authenticity is so highly valued. He says, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
Ooh, that's a good one. This is one of those laws that just seems counterintuitive,
Right.
but it's incredibly powerful. Think about it. Have you ever been completely disarmed
Yeah.
by an unexpected act of kindness from someone that you perceive as being ruthless or manipulative?
Yeah, I can think of a few examples. It's almost like it throws you off balance. Makes you question your assumptions about that person.
It does. And Greene argues that honesty, when used strategically, can be an incredibly effective weapon.
Interesting.
He tells the story of Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, yeah.
Twice.
Nice.
He even managed to con Al Capone
Wow.
with a display of disarming honesty.
Wow.
Lustig understood that honesty, when it comes from someone you wouldn't expect it from, can be incredibly disarming.
Yeah.
It creates this sense of confusion and vulnerability that can be expertly exploited.
It's like that saying, it takes a thief to catch a thief.
Yeah.
If you come across as too honest, people might think you're up to something.
Right.
But if you have a reputation for being a bit shady, well-timed act of honesty can completely throw people off guard.
Absolutely. And it plays on our inherent desire to believe in people, even when we know better.
Right.
It's about momentarily lowering our guard, which can leave us vulnerable to manipulation.
So it's not about being genuinely honest all the time,
No.
but about using honesty strategically to achieve your goals.
Exactly.
Okay. A bit Machiavellian, but I can see how it would be effective.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to Law 6,
Okay.
which is all about the art of persuasion. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude.
Makes a lot of sense.
This one makes a lot of sense. We all know that people are more likely to help you
Yes.
if they see it benefiting them in some way.
Right. Greene argues that appealing to emotions like mercy or gratitude
Right,
is often less effective than highlighting the tangible benefits of helping you.
right.
He uses the example of the Athenian debate on whether to ally with Corcyra against Corinth. You know, the Corcyrians, instead of pleading for help, skillfully highlighted how the alliance would benefit Athens
Right.
strategically and economically.
So it's about framing your request in a way that aligns with the other person's self-interest.
It is.
It's not about begging for favors, but about presenting a win-win proposition.
Exactly. And this applies to so many different situations, like negotiating a raise, asking for a promotion, even persuading your partner to do the dishes.
Right.
It's about understanding the other person's motivations and framing your request in a way that makes them feel like they're getting something out of it, too.
Okay, this next law is one that might raise a few eyebrows. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Now, this one sounds a bit unethical, doesn't it?
It does sound a bit shady, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you look at it from a strategic perspective, there's
Well-
a certain logic to it.
Okay.
It's about delegation and leveraging the talents of others to enhance your own
Right.
power and reputation. I mean, think about it. How many successful leaders throughout history have achieved greatness by surrounding themselves with brilliant minds and then taking credit for their accomplishments?
Well, when you put it that way, I mean, isn't that how a lot of companies operate?
Yeah.
They have teams of people working behind the scenes, but it's the CEO who gets all the credit.
Exactly. It's about understanding how to position yourself strategically to be the face of success,
Right.
even if you're not the one doing all the work.
Okay.
But of course, there's a fine line between delegation and exploitation.
So how do you avoid crossing that line?
Well, it's about recognizing and acknowledging the contributions of those who are working for you. It's about giving credit where credit is due, even if you're the one ultimately reaping the rewards.
Right.
Greene uses the example of Balboa, the explorer who discovered the Pacific Ocean,
Oh, yeah.
but was ultimately betrayed and executed.
Wow.
He did all the hard work,
Yeah.
but he failed to manage perceptions and control the narrative around his achievements.
So it's a cautionary tale
It is.
of what can happen when you don't master this law.
Exactly.
So it's not just about taking credit. It's about creating a system
Right.
where everyone benefits, but you're the one who ultimately comes out on top.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's about building a team that can amplify your strengths and compensate for your weaknesses.
All right, let's move on to Law 8.
Okay.
This one sounds a bit like a game of cat and mouse. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This is about controlling the dynamics of an interaction.
Okay.
By making the other person approach you, you immediately establish a position of power
Right.
and control.
It's like setting a trap, right?
Yeah.
Luring your prey into your web.
Yeah, it is.
I'm thinking of Napoleon's escape from Elba.
Oh, yeah.
He strategically positioned himself as the solution to France's problems,
Yes.
essentially enticing his enemies to bring him back into power.
That's a perfect example. Napoleon understood the allure of the savior figure. By appearing as the only one capable of restoring order,
Right.
he manipulated his enemies into playing right into his hands.
It's brilliant.
It is.
So he turned a seemingly weak position into a strategic advantage.
Absolutely.
But how do you create that sense of desire, that need for people to seek you out?
It's about understanding what people want and then positioning yourself as the one who can provide it.
Okay.
It might be access to resources, information, or even just a sense of belonging or validation.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about social proof.
Yes.
If you can create a perception of scarcity or exclusivity,
Yeah.
people will be more likely to chase after you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about creating an aura of desirability, making people believe they need what you have to offer.
Law 9 seems to be all about action. Win through your actions, never through argument. This one really resonates with me. I've always been someone who believes in letting my work speak for itself.
It's a powerful principle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actions often speak louder than words, especially when it comes to power dynamics.
Right.
Greene uses the example of Michelangelo,
Okay.
who was commissioned to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
Yeah.
He faced a lot of criticism and skepticism from his rivals,
Right.
but instead of engaging in arguments, he just focused on creating a masterpiece. And in the end, his work silenced all his critics.
It's like that saying, the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
You can talk all you want, but it's your actions that ultimately determine your success.
Exactly. It's about focusing on delivering exceptional results,
Mhm.
on exceeding expectations, and letting your accomplishments speak for themselves.
And sometimes the most effective way to win an argument is to simply not engage in it at all. Let your work do the talking.
Let your work do the talking.
Now, this next law sounds a bit ominous.
Okay.
Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
It does sound like something out of a horror movie.
Yeah, it does.
But Greene is simply highlighting the contagious nature of negativity. He argues that associating with unhappy or unlucky individuals can drag you down and damage your reputation.
I guess we all know those people
Yeah.
who seem to attract drama and negativity wherever they go. It's like they have a dark cloud following them around.
He uses the example of Lola Montez,
Okay.
a notorious courtesan who brought down a king
Wow.
with her drama and instability.
Wow.
She was a classic example of what Greene calls an infector.
Okay.
Her negativity and recklessness eventually poisoned the entire court, leading to the king's downfall.
So it's not just about avoiding negative people, but also about being mindful of the energy you're projecting into the world.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a positive and supportive environment around you. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who inspire you, who contribute to your success.
All right, let's move on to Law 11. This one seems a bit manipulative. Learn to keep people dependent on you.
It does sound a bit Machiavellian, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's about creating a dynamic
Okay.
where others rely on you
Right?
for their well-being or success.
Yeah. It's about making yourself indispensable,
Right.
which strengthens your position of power.
I can see how that would work in a corporate environment.
Yeah.
If you're the one who holds the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, people are going to be more likely to defer to you.
Exactly. Greene uses the example of Otto von Bismarck,
Okay.
the Iron Chancellor of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
He skillfully manipulated political rivals,
Right.
creating situations where they were forced to depend on him for their survival.
But there's a danger in becoming too isolated, right? If you push people away, you risk creating enemies.
That's a great point. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
You want to cultivate a sense of dependency
Right.
without alienating yourself
Right.
from potential allies or support systems.
Right.
Greene argues that while independence and self-reliance are important,
Mm-hmm.
becoming too isolated can make you vulnerable to attacks or conspiracies.
It's like that saying, no man is an island.
Right.
Even the most powerful individuals need a network of support. They do. It's about building a network of interconnected relationships where you hold a position of influence
Right.
without becoming completely isolated. You need to be both self-reliant and strategically connected.
Okay, makes sense. All right, let's move on to Law 12.
Okay.
This one seems to echo something we discussed earlier. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. We were talking about that with Victor Lustig.
Right.
Yeah.
This is about understanding the power of unexpected kindness, particularly when it comes from someone perceived as ruthless or manipulative.
Right.
Remember Victor Lustig conning Al Capone?
Yeah, it was a brilliant example of how a well-timed act of generosity can completely shift the balance of power.
It can. It's about creating a moment of vulnerability that can catch your opponent off guard. It plays on our inherent desire to see the good in people,
Right.
even those we might consider our adversaries.
So it's not about being a genuinely good person.
No.
It's about strategically using acts of kindness to achieve your goals.
It can be a bit Machiavellian,
Yeah.
but it's a reality of power dynamics. Sometimes a well-placed act of generosity can be more effective than brute force or manipulation.
This brings us to Law 13.
Okay.
When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude.
Right.
Again, we're back to self-interest.
We are. It's a fundamental principle of persuasion.
Okay.
It's about understanding the other person's needs and desires and framing your requests in a way that aligns with their self-interest.
It's like we were saying earlier about framing your request as a win-win proposition.
Exactly. Don't beg for favors or rely on past good deeds.
Right.
Instead, highlight the tangible benefits the other person will receive by helping you.
Right.
Remember the Athenian debate we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
The Corcyraeans successfully secured an alliance with Athens by appealing to their strategic and economic interests.
So it's all about understanding what motivates the other person.
Yes.
And tailoring your approach accordingly.
Exactly. And this applies to so many different situations, from negotiating a business deal to asking your neighbor to water your plants while you're on vacation.
Okay, Law 14 seems a bit sneaky pose as a friend, work as a spy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This one's all about the importance of gathering information and understanding the motivations of those around you.
Okay.
It's about being observant, listening carefully, and reading between the lines.
It sounds a bit like being a detective.
In a way, it is. I mean, Greene tells the story of Joseph Duveen,
Okay.
a legendary art dealer who was a master at gathering information about his clients before even approaching them. He would research their tastes, their families, their financial situations, anything
Wow.
that could give him an edge in the negotiation.
So it's not about being a literal spy,
Right.
but about being strategic in the way you gather information.
Exactly.
Right.
Pay attention to the details, listen carefully to what people say, and try to understand their underlying motivations. The more you know about the people you're dealing with, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the complexities of power dynamics.
Law 15 seems to be about taking things to the extreme. Crush your enemy.
Totally.
This is a controversial one for sure.
Yeah, it does.
But Greene argues that in the game of power,
Yeah.
it's important to be ruthless when dealing with your enemies.
Right.
He uses the example of Jiang Yu,
Okay.
a powerful Chinese warlord who repeatedly spared the life of his rival Liu Bang,
Interesting.
only to be defeated by him in the end.
So it's about eliminating any chance of a comeback,
Yeah,
making sure your enemy is truly defeated and unable to pose a threat in the future.
exactly. Greene argues that leaving even a small ember of your enemy's power burning can be dangerous.
Right.
It can reignite and burn you in the future.
Right.
He suggests that by completely crushing your enemy, you eliminate any chance of them regrouping and coming back to haunt you.
Okay, this next law is a bit of a head scratcher. Use absence to increase respect and honor. I like this one.
Yeah.
This law highlights the power of scarcity and the allure of the unattainable.
Okay.
It's about understanding that constant presence can breed familiarity
Yeah.
and eventually contempt.
So it's about creating a sense of mystery and intrigue.
Exactly. Think about those celebrities or public figures who are notoriously private.
Yeah.
You know, their mystique often enhances their appeal, making people more curious and fascinated by them.
It's like that saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Precisely, Greene uses the example of Wu Zetian, the only woman to ever rule China as emperor in her own right.
Wow.
She used strategic disappearances and calculated appearances to maintain her mystique
Wow.
and control over the court.
Okay.
She understood that by making herself scarce, she heightened her allure and kept her subjects guessing.
Okay, this next law sounds a bit like something out of a psychological thriller. Keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability.
Ooh. This law is about the power of keeping your opponents off balance. By being unpredictable, you create a sense of anxiety and fear that makes them hesitant to act against you.
Right.
They never know what to expect, so they're constantly second-guessing themselves.
It's like a mind game, right?
It is.
Keeping your opponents constantly on edge.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be effective. But it also seems a bit manipulative.
It can be, for sure. But Greene argues that in the realm of power, predictability can be a weakness.
Right.
He uses the example of Ivan the Terrible,
Oh, yeah.
the first Tsar of Russia,
Yeah.
who was notorious for his erratic behavior.
Right.
You know, he would alternate between acts of extreme cruelty and unexpected kindness,
Wow.
keeping his subjects in a constant state of fear and uncertainty.
So it's about breaking patterns.
Yeah.
Keeping people guessing about your next move.
Exactly. It's about creating a sense of unease
Mm-hmm.
that discourages challenges and makes people think twice before crossing you.
All right, this next law seems to go against the grain of conventional wisdom.
Okay.
Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous.
Yeah.
This is one of those laws that seems counterintuitive.
Right.
But it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we often think of power as being about building walls,
Yeah.
about protecting yourself from your enemies.
Right.
But Greene argues that isolation can actually be more dangerous than exposure.
How so?
Well, when you isolate yourself,
Mm.
you cut yourself off from valuable information,
Right.
from potential allies,
Hmm?
and from support systems that can help you navigate the complexities of power dynamics.
Okay.
You become more vulnerable to attacks, to conspiracies, and to the manipulations of those who are trying to undermine you.
So it's about striking a balance between protecting yourself
It is.
and staying connected.
It is. He uses the contrasting examples of Louis XIV, who built the Grand Palace of Versailles
Right.
to keep his courtiers close and control information,
Okay.
and Pontormo, a painter who isolated himself
Okay.
and ultimately destroyed his own career. Louis XIV understood that isolation can breed dissent and conspiracy, so he kept his potential rivals close, where he could monitor their actions and control the flow of information.
Right.
Pontormo, on the other hand,
Yeah.
became increasingly paranoid and out of touch with reality,
Wow.
ultimately leading to his downfall.
So it's like that saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
But it's also about recognizing that you need a network of support to thrive in the game of power.
You need a network.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Law 19.
Right?
Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person.
It's good advice.
This one seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You don't want to make enemies
No.
of people who can hurt you.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
It's about choosing your battles wisely.
Right.
Greene provides this fascinating typology of different personality types, from the easily manipulated sucker to the vengeful wolf in sheep's clothing.
Wow.
He argues that not everyone will react to your strategies
Right.
in the same way. Some individuals are more likely to seek revenge than others,
Yeah.
making them dangerous adversaries.
So it's about doing your homework, understanding the personalities and motivations of the people you're dealing with.
Before you make a move.
Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely.
And this brings us to the final law for this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Law 20, do not commit to anyone. This one sounds a bit cold-hearted, doesn't it?
It can seem that way.
Yeah.
But Greene argues that in the game of power,
Mm.
it's important to maintain your independence and avoid
Right.
entanglements that might limit your options or compromise your position.
So it's about staying flexible,
Yes.
keeping your options open.
Exactly. He uses the example of Queen Elizabeth I,
Oh, yeah.
who skillfully played potential suitors against each other,
Wow.
maintaining her autonomy and strengthening her position as ruler.
That's smart.
It can be tempting to, form alliances or make commitments when we feel insecure. But, remember that maintaining a degree of detachment allows you to assess the situation more objectively and make choices that truly benefit you.
It's like that saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Now, Law Tongue One is one of my favorites, probably because it's so counterintuitive.
Okay.
Play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark.
Ooh, this one sounds devious.
I'm intrigued. It's about using the element of surprise to your advantage.
Okay.
By appearing less intelligent or capable,
Right.
you lull your opponent into a false sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
You make them overconfident, which can lead to some pretty spectacular blunders on their part.
Yeah, I can see how that would work. It's
Yeah.
like setting a trap.
Mm.
You let your opponent think they have the upper hand, and then, bam,
Yeah.
you spring the trap and take control.
Greene tells the story of the con man, Yellow Kid Weil,
Oh, yeah.
who pretended to be this naive rube,
Mm-hmm.
allowing his marks to believe that they were outsmarting him.
Right.
In reality, he was setting them up for a big fall.
It's pretty clever. So it's not just about playing dumb, it's about
No.
playing dumb strategically.
Precisely. You need to understand your opponent's psychology, their weaknesses, their desires.
Right.
You need to know how to push their buttons and manipulate their perceptions.
It's a dangerous game, though.
It is a dangerous game.
Mhm.
It can backfire if you underestimate your opponent,
Right.
so use it with caution.
Speaking of counterintuitive moves, Law 22 takes the cake.
Right.
Use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. Surrender as a power move. Seriously.
I know it sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But Greene makes a compelling case.
Okay.
Think about it. Sometimes when you're facing a much stronger opponent,
Right.
Outright resistance can be futile.
Yeah, you might just get crushed.
You might even end up getting crushed.
Yeah.
But by surrendering, you can actually disrupt your opponent's expectations,
Okay.
throw them off balance, and even gain a psychological advantage.
If you surrender too easily, though, won't people think you're weak?
It's all about the execution. You're not actually surrendering your power. You're simply choosing a strategic retreat.
Right.
You're buying yourself time to regroup, to plan your next move,
Okay.
and to exploit any weaknesses or vulnerabilities in your opponent's position.
So you're playing the long game?
You are playing the long game. Remember the story of the Melians,
Oh, yeah.
who refused to surrender to Athens and were utterly destroyed?
Yeah, their stubborn resistance only hastened their demise. It did. So it's about recognizing when to fight and when to yield, knowing that sometimes a strategic retreat can be more powerful than a head-on attack.
Exactly. Sometimes surrendering can even infuriate your opponent, making them overconfident and careless, which opens up opportunities for you to exploit later on.
Interesting. Okay, this next law seems like a return to more practical advice. Law 23, concentrate your forces.
Yeah, this law emphasizes the importance of focus and strategy.
Okay.
It's about directing your energy and resources toward a specific goal and avoiding distractions. Think about the Rothschild banking dynasty.
Oh, yeah.
They built their empire by carefully concentrating their resources, maintaining strict control over their operations, and excluding outsiders
Right.
from their inner circle.
So they created a monopoly.
They did. This allowed them to amass immense wealth and influence.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. You can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
You need to identify your strengths, your areas of expertise, and then focus your energy on those areas.
But doesn't Greene also caution against putting all your eggs in one basket? I seem to remember something about the importance of dispersion.
You're right. He acknowledges that there are times when spreading your resources and utilizing guerrilla tactics
Okay.
can be a more effective way to undermine a superior opponent.
Right.
It's about being adaptable, recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to power dynamics.
Right.
You need to adjust your strategy based on the specific circumstances you're facing.
So it's about knowing when to concentrate and when to disperse your forces, depending on the situation and the opponent you're dealing with.
Right. Think about Mao Zedong's successful use of guerrilla warfare against the nationalists.
Right.
He understood that sometimes the best way to defeat a stronger enemy is to avoid direct confrontation and instead chip away at their power base through a series of smaller strategic attacks.
Okay, let's move on to Law 24.
Okay.
Play the perfect courtier, which seems particularly relevant in today's world of social media and personal branding.
Oh, for sure. This law delves into the art of social intelligence, how to navigate the complexities of human interaction,
Right.
particularly in environments where power is concentrated.
So it's not just about being charming or likable.
No.
It's about understanding the subtle dynamics of social influence.
Precisely, Greene uses the example of the courtiers of Louis XIV's court,
Right.
who were masters at flattery, discretion, and the art of influencing those in positions of power.
Okay.
They were like social chameleons, adapting their behavior to fit the expectations and preferences of those around them.
That sounds exhausting.
It could be, but it was also essential for survival in that environment.
Right.
Think about the principles he lays out for mastering this law.
Okay.
Being a source of pleasure, never criticizing directly, being self-observant, and mastering the art of timing. These are skills that can be incredibly valuable in any social setting.
Yeah.
Whether you're navigating the corporate ladder, building a business, or even just trying to improve your personal relationships.
So it's about being strategic in your social interactions, understanding the unspoken rules of the game, and using that knowledge to advance your own interests.
Absolutely.
Now, Law 25 is all about self-invention.
Okay.
Recreate yourself.
I love this one.
I love this one. It's about taking control of your own narrative and shaping the way the world sees you.
Greene argues that we all have the power to create our own identities, to craft a persona that aligns with our goals and aspirations. He uses the example of Julius Caesar,
Oh, yeah.
who meticulously crafted this public image as this charismatic leader and generous benefactor,
Okay.
laying the foundation for his political rise. He understood the power of symbolism and image making,
Right.
and he used it to his advantage.
So it's not about being fake or pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about being conscious of the image you're projecting
Yes,
and the story you're telling about yourself.
exactly. It's about highlighting your strength,
Mhm.
downplaying your weaknesses, and creating a narrative that resonates with the people you want to influence.
This next law is one that might make some people uncomfortable. Keep your hands clean.
Oh,
Uh, this is about maintaining a facade of innocence
okay.
and avoiding any association with actions that might damage your reputation,
Right.
even if you're the one orchestrating those actions behind the scenes.
So this sounds like something a mob boss would say.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about plausible deniability, right?
Exactly. Greene uses the example of Cleopatra.
Oh. Who skillfully used a series of scapegoats to eliminate her rivals and secure her position as ruler of Egypt.
Wow.
She maintained this public image of purity and virtue
Right.
while orchestrating some pretty ruthless power plays behind the scenes.
So it's about delegating the dirty work, but also about creating a distance between yourself
Yes,
and any actions that might tarnish your reputation.
precisely.
Ah.
You want to achieve your goals without getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
Right.
This law can be particularly relevant in environments where power dynamics are complex and often opaque,
Okay.
like politics or big business.
Okay, let's move on to Law 27. This one sounds intriguing. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following.
This law delves into the human need for meaning and belonging,
Okay.
and how that need can be exploited to create a loyal and devoted following.
Okay.
Greene tells the story of Francesco Giuseppe Borri,
Okay.
a 17th century alchemist,
Hmm.
who captivated followers with promises of spiritual enlightenment and the ability to transmute base metals into gold.
So it's about tapping into people's deepest desires,
Yeah.
their hopes and dreams, and then offering them a path to fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
even if that path is based on illusion or deception.
Exactly. It's about creating a compelling narrative,
Mm-hmm.
a belief system that resonates with people's needs and aspirations.
Right.
I mean, Borri understood that people are often willing to overlook logic and reason
Right.
when they're offered a glimpse of something extraordinary, something that transcends the mundane realities of their lives.
It's like those self-help gurus who promise to unlock the secrets to happiness and success.
Yeah.
People are so desperate for answers that they're willing to believe almost anything.
Right. And this principle can be applied to many different areas of life.
Yeah.
From marketing and advertising to politics and religion. It's about understanding the psychology of belief
Right.
and utilizing those principles to build a loyal and passionate following.
Okay, let's move on to Law 28, which seems to be all about confidence and self-assurance.
Yeah.
Interaction with boldness.
Yeah. This law emphasizes the importance of projecting an aura of confidence and decisiveness. Even if you're not entirely sure of yourself,
Right.
Greene argues that hesitation and self-doubt are often interpreted as weakness,
Mhm.
while boldness and self-assurance are seen as signs of strength and leadership.
I've heard that saying, fake it till you make it.
That's the idea. Greene uses the example of Casanova,
Ah, Casanova.
the legendary seducer,
Right.
whose boldness and self-assurance disarmed potential rivals and made him irresistible to women.
Oh,
So it's not just about being confident, it's about projecting an image of confidence,
right.
even if you're feeling a bit insecure on the inside.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that perception is often reality.
Right.
By appearing confident and decisive,
Mm-hmm.
you influence the perceptions of others, making them more likely to see you as a leader and follow your lead.
This next law is about strategy and planning. Plan all the way to the end.
Yeah, this law emphasizes the importance of thinking several steps ahead, anticipating potential obstacles and planning for every contingency.
Mm-hmm.
Greene tells the tragic story of Vasco Núñez de Balboa, the Spanish explorer who discovered the Pacific Ocean but was ultimately betrayed and executed due to his short-sightedness and lack of planning.
So it's not just about having a goal, it's about having a plan for how to achieve that goal.
Right.
And then a backup plan, and maybe even a backup plan for your backup plan.
Exactly. You need to be thinking long-term,
Right.
considering the potential consequences of your actions
Mm-hmm.
and anticipating the moves of your opponents.
It's like playing chess.
It is.
You don't just move your pieces randomly. You think about how your opponent is going to react to each move,
Yeah.
and you plan accordingly.
Greene contrasts Balboa's recklessness with the strategic brilliance of Cardinal Richelieu, who carefully cultivated his power over decades,
Wow.
anticipating his rivals' moves and ultimately shaping the destiny of France. Richelieu understood the importance of playing the long game, and he was patient, methodical, and always thinking several steps ahead.
Okay. This next law seems like a return to the importance of image management.
Make your accomplishments seem effortless.
Yeah. This law emphasizes the importance of concealing the effort and strategy behind your successes,
Okay.
making it appear as if you achieve great things with ease and natural talent.
Yeah, make it look easy.
Make it look easy.
Banners.
Greene uses the example of the magician Harry Houdini,
Oh, yeah.
who was a master at creating this illusion of effortless mastery,
Right.
concealing the years of practice and dedication behind his seemingly superhuman feats.
So it's about showcasing the results, not the process.
Yes.
Make it look easy, even if it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes.
Precisely. It's about creating an aura of effortless mastery, which enhances your reputation and makes your accomplishments seem all the more impressive.
Okay.
It's about projecting an image of natural talent and grace, even if it's a carefully constructed illusion.
Law 31 sounds a bit like a game of strategy. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal.
This law is about subtly influencing the choices of others.
Okay. Framing the decision-making process in a way that benefits you,
Right.
even if they believe they're making their own choices freely.
So it's about being a puppet master, pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
Yeah, it can be.
That seems a bit manipulative.
It can be, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also about understanding the psychology of decision-making and
Yeah.
recognizing that people are often influenced by the way choices are presented to them.
I can see how this could work in a negotiation, for example.
Sure.
If you can control the options that are presented to the other party,
Right.
you can subtly steer them towards the outcome you desire.
Greene uses the example of Ivan the Terrible,
Oh, yeah?
who expertly manipulated the Russian nobility,
Mm-hmm.
forcing them to choose between seemingly undesirable options,
Right.
both of which serve to strengthen his own power.
Okay, this next law sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. Play to people's fantasies.
Ooh, this law highlights the power of tapping into people's desires, dreams, and aspirations,
Okay.
particularly those that are unfulfilled or unattainable. Right. In their everyday lives.
Mm.
Greene tells this captivating story of the alchemist Bragadino,
Okay.
who captivated 16th century Venice with promises of turning dust into gold,
Oh, wow.
exploiting this collective fantasy of sudden wealth and prosperity.
So it's about understanding people's deepest desires,
Yes.
their hopes and fears,
Yeah.
and then creating a narrative that resonates with those desires.
Exactly. It's about becoming a symbol of hope, possibility, or transformation.
Right.
Offering a vision of a better future that captures the imagination and inspires belief.
That's like those companies that sell anti-aging creams or weight loss supplements.
Yeah.
They're not really selling a product. They're selling a fantasy.
Right.
The fantasy of eternal youth or a perfect body.
That's a great example. It's about understanding that people are often driven by their emotions, their desires, their longing for something more. And if you can tap into those emotions, you
Right.
can exert a powerful influence over them.
Law 33 seems to take this idea of understanding people's motivations to a whole new level. Discover each man's thumbscrew.
This law is about the importance of understanding the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of others,
Right.
identifying those pressure points that can be exploited to influence their behavior.
Okay.
Greene uses the example of Cardinal Richelieu,
Oh, yeah.
who was a master at identifying the hidden insecurities and desires of those around him, using this knowledge to manipulate them to his advantage.
This sounds a bit creepy, like something out of a spy movie.
It can be, for sure, but it's also about understanding human nature.
Right.
Everyone has weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and insecurities.
Right.
And if you can identify those weaknesses, you can use them to your advantage.
Okay, so it's not necessarily about being malicious.
Right.
It's just about being aware
It is.
of those weaknesses.
Yes.
So it's about being a keen observer of human behavior,
It is.
paying attention to the subtle cues that reveal a person's true motivations and vulnerabilities.
Exactly. It's about understanding what makes people tick,
What drives their behavior and what they're most afraid of, and then using that knowledge to influence them, to persuade them, or even to control them.
Okay, Law 34 seems to be about projecting an image of power and authority. Be royal in your own fashion act, like a king to be treated like one.
Yeah, this law emphasizes the importance of carrying yourself with confidence and self-assurance.
Okay.
Regardless of your social standing or circumstances, Greene argues that people often treat you the way you expect to be treated.
Right.
If you act like a king,
Yeah.
people will often treat you like one.
So it's about embodying the qualities of leadership, even if you're not in a position of formal authority.
Exactly. Greene uses the example of Christopher Columbus,
Oh, yeah.
who, despite his humble origins, carried himself with the confidence and self-assurance of a king.
Yeah.
ultimately convincing Queen Isabella of Spain to finance his risky voyage across the Atlantic.
Wow.
It's like that saying, dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
That's a great analogy. It's about projecting an image of competence, vision, and self-assurance,
Right.
which can inspire others to believe in you and follow your lead.
Absolutely.
This next law seems like a crucial one for anyone who wants to be successful in any field. Master the art of timing.
Ooh, timing is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Greene uses the example of Joseph Fouché,
Okay.
Napoleon's Minister of Police, who expertly navigated the turbulent French Revolution
Oh.
by adapting his allegiances and actions with impeccable timing.
Okay.
He knew when to seize the moment, when to lie low, and when to shift his loyalties to ensure his survival and advancement.
It's like surfing. You need to know when to paddle, when to stand up, and when to bail out. If your timing is off, you're going to wipe out.
That's a great way to put it. It's about developing a keen sense of timing,
Right.
understanding when to act boldly, and when to exercise patience, waiting for the opportune moment to strike.
Okay. Law 76 seems to be about letting go.
Okay.
Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them, is the best revenge.
Yeah. This law emphasizes the power of detachment and the futility of dwelling on what is beyond your reach.
Right.
Greene argues that, clinging to desires for things you can't have only leads to frustration and resentment.
Right.
It's better to just let go
Yeah.
and focus your energy on what you can control.
This one really resonates with me. I've wasted so much time and energy in the past on things that were ultimately out of my reach. It's like trying to catch the wind.
Greene uses the example of the Athenian general Themistocles,
Okay.
who was ostracized from Athens,
Yeah.
but instead of dwelling on his misfortune,
Right.
he focused on achieving success elsewhere.
Okay.
By choosing to let go of what he could not have, he freed himself to pursue new opportunities and ultimately achieved greater glory than those who had banished him.
Wow. Okay. So it's a bit of a reverse psychology thing.
Yeah.
If you can just let go of those things that you can't control,
Right.
you actually free yourself up
Yeah.
to achieve other things.
You do.
So it's about accepting your limitations, letting go of the things you can't control, and focusing on creating the best possible future for yourself, regardless of your circumstances.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true power lies in acceptance and the ability to move on from setbacks.
Okay, Law 37 seems like a throwback to the importance of image and spectacle.
3.
Create compelling spectacles.
This law highlights the power of visual imagery and grand gestures in capturing the imagination and influencing the perceptions of others.
Right.
Greene uses the example of Louis XIV,
Oh, yeah. Good old Louis XIV.
who used elaborate court rituals, grand architectural projects like the Palace of Versailles, and lavish public displays to project an aura of power and magnificence, solidifying his position as the absolute ruler of France.
It's all about creating a sense of awe and wonder, right? Of those elaborate Super Bowl halftime shows or the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games.
Exactly. It's about understanding that power is often about theater
Right.
and symbolism. By creating a spectacle, a sensory experience that transcends the ordinary, you can capture the imagination of the masses and influence their perception.
Yeah. Make them feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Right.
This next law seems to contradict everything we've been talking about so far.
Right.
Law 38, think as you like, but behave like others.
This law emphasizes the importance of blending in and conforming to social norms, at least outwardly, while maintaining your own independent thoughts and beliefs.
Right.
Greene argues that openly challenging social norms can be dangerous, leading to persecution or social ostracism.
Right.
It's often more strategic to conform outwardly while pursuing your own agenda behind the scenes.
So it's about playing the social game.
It is.
Understanding the unspoken rules and expectations of your environment and not rocking the boat too much.
Exactly. It's about being discreet, observing social cues, and adapting your behavior to fit in, even if you don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on around you.
It's like that saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Precisely. You don't want to draw unnecessary attention to yourself or make yourself a target by standing out too much.
Law 39 seems to encourage a bit of mischief, stir up waters to catch fish.
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah.
This law highlights the strategic use of chaos and disruption to your advantage,
Okay.
recognizing that moments of instability can create opportunities for those who are prepared to seize them.
Okay, so Use chaos to your advantage.
Yes, Greene uses the example of Otto von Bismarck,
Oh, yeah.
who skillfully manipulated political events,
Mm-hmm.
creating a climate of uncertainty and tension that allowed him to consolidate his power and unify Germany.
So it's about recognizing that change is inevitable
Right.
and that moments of disruption can be opportunities
Yeah.
for those who are adaptable and strategically minded.
Exactly. It's about being a master of chaos, understanding how to navigate turbulent times and use them to your advantage.
It's like that saying, never let a good crisis go to waste.
That's the idea. When things are chaotic and unpredictable, people are often looking for someone to step in and restore order,
Right,
to provide a sense of stability and direction.
right.
If you can position yourself as that person,
Yeah.
you can gain a tremendous amount of power and influence.
Okay, Law 40 seems like a warning about the dangers of accepting gifts and favors.
Mm-hmm.
Despise the free lunch.
This law emphasizes the importance of self-reliance and the hidden costs of accepting favors or gifts,
Right.
recognizing that nothing in the realm of power is truly free.
I've heard that saying. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly. Greene argues that every gift, every favor comes with strings attached.
Right.
When you accept something from someone, you incur a debt,
Yeah.
an obligation that can be called upon later.
Yeah, it's about maintaining your independence.
Yes.
So it's about valuing your independence and understanding that true power comes from self-reliance.
Precisely. You want to be in a position where you don't owe anyone anything.
Right.
That gives you freedom and flexibility to make choices that align with your own interests.
Yeah. Law 41 seems particularly relevant for anyone who's stepping into a leadership role or inheriting a legacy. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
Yeah, this law highlights the challenges faced by those who follow in the footsteps of a legendary figure, recognizing that it's often difficult to escape the shadow of the predecessor
Right.
and establish your own unique identity.
It's like trying to follow in the footsteps of Michael Jordan or Beyonce. It's a tough act to follow.
Exactly. Greene uses the example of Louis VI,
Okay.
who inherited the throne of France from his grandfather, Louis VI,
Mm-hmm.
but was unable to escape the legacy of his predecessor's excesses and ultimately faced revolution and execution.
Wow.
So it's about recognizing that imitation is rarely a path to true power.
Right.
You need to find your own voice, your own style.
Yeah.
Your own way of leading. Greene contrasts Louis VI's fate with the strategic brilliance of Alexander the Great,
Okay.
who consciously distanced himself from the legacy of his father Philip of Macedon, forging his own path to glory and establishing a unique and lasting legacy. Alexander understood that to achieve true greatness, you must break free from the constraints of the past and create your own path.
Okay, this next law sounds like a military strategy. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter.
This law emphasizes the importance of identifying and neutralizing the key individuals who hold a group together, recognizing that by removing the leader or the source of inspiration,
Right.
you can easily dismantle the entire structure.
It's like cutting off the head of a snake.
Yes.
If you can eliminate the leader, the rest of the group will become disorganized and vulnerable.
Greene uses the example of Caesar Borgia,
Okay.
who skillfully manipulated the powerful families of Renaissance Italy,
Oh, yeah.
turning them against each other and consolidating his own power by eliminating their leaders and disrupting their alliances.
So it's about recognizing the dynamics of leadership and understanding that power often resides in a single individual or a small group of key decision makers.
Exactly. By identifying and targeting those individuals,
Yeah.
you can effectively dismantle the entire organization,
Right.
whether it's a political party, a business, or even a social movement.
Law 43 seems to take us back to the importance of understanding people's emotions. Work on the hearts and minds of others.
This law highlights the importance of understanding the emotions and motivations of others,
Okay.
using that knowledge to seduce, persuade, and influence their behavior.
Okay.
Greene uses the example of the Chinese general and strategist Zhuge Liang,
Okay.
who successfully subdued this rebellious southern tribe not through force,
Okay.
but through acts of kindness and understanding, winning their hearts and minds.
So it's about recognizing that true power lies not in brute force, but in the ability to win people over, to appeal to their emotions and make them feel understood and valued.
Precisely. It's about building trust, creating a sense of connection, and inspiring loyalty.
This next law seems to echo something we've discussed before. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect.
This law emphasizes the power of reflecting back to others their own image, their own desires and beliefs. using this mirroring effect to disarm, seduce, and ultimately control them.
Okay. I remember you mentioned something about social chameleons earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same idea? Adapting your behavior to match the expectations of those around you?
It's a similar concept. Greene tells the fascinating story of Alcibiades,
Okay.
the Athenian general and statesman who was a master of adapting to different cultures and social environments,
Right.
mirroring the values and behaviors of those around him to gain their trust and influence.
So it's about being a chameleon, becoming a mirror, reflecting back to people what they want to see.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit manipulative, but I can see how it would be effective.
It can be a very subtle form of manipulation.
Yeah.
People are naturally drawn to those who are like them, those who share their values and validate their beliefs.
Right.
By becoming a mirror,
Right.
you can disarm your opponents, making them more receptive to your suggestions and manipulations.
Okay.
So,
Law 45 seems to be about the art of subtle persuasion. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
yeah, this law highlights the importance of introducing change gradually,
Right.
recognizing that people are naturally resistant to radical shifts
Yeah.
and are more likely to accept new ideas or systems if they're presented as an evolution rather than a revolution.
I've heard that people fear change. If you try to change things too quickly, people will push back.
Exactly. Greene uses the example of the English Reformation,
Oh,
which was a gradual process of religious and political change,
Right.
carefully orchestrated by King Henry VIII and his advisors to minimize social upheaval and ensure a smooth transition. They introduced reforms gradually allowing people to adapt to the new order at their own pace.
Yeah, they understood that you can't just force change on people. You have to kind of meet them where they are and gradually bring them along.
Okay, Law 46 seems to go against everything we've been taught about success. Never appear too perfect.
This law emphasizes the importance of concealing your flaws and vulnerabilities,
Okay.
recognizing that appearing too perfect can trigger envy and resentment, ultimately undermining your power and influence. So don't let them see you sweat.
Yeah, don't let them see you sweat. Greene tells the story of Joe Orton, a brilliant playwright who was tragically murdered by his jealous lover, Kenneth Halliwell, who felt overshadowed by Orton's success and talent.
So it's about recognizing that perfection can be intimidating and even threatening to others.
Exactly. It's about understanding that sometimes it's better to appear human, to show a little vulnerability, to let people see that you're not infallible.
It's like that saying, the tallest tree catches the most wind.
It does. Greene contrasts Orton's fate with the strategic brilliance of Cosimo de' Medici, who consciously avoided ostentatious displays of wealth and power, deflecting envy and maintaining stability in Renaissance. Florence Cosimo understood that appearing too perfect can be a liability.
Okay, let's move on to Law 47, which
Okay.
seems like a warning about the dangers of overreaching. Do not go past the mark you aim for in victory. Learn when to stop.
This law emphasizes the importance of recognizing the limits of your power
Okay.
and avoiding the temptation to push your luck too far, recognizing that even in victory, there are dangers in overreaching.
It's like that saying, quit while you're ahead.
That's the idea. Greene tells the tragic story of Sir Walter Raleigh, a brilliant explorer and courtier who fell from grace and was ultimately executed due to his arrogance and inability to restrain his ambition.
So it's about knowing when to consolidate your gains, when to retreat, and when to exercise restraint, avoiding the temptation to overreach and risk losing everything you've achieved.
Exactly. Greene contrasts Raleigh's recklessness with the strategic wisdom of the Spartans, who understood the limits of their power and were willing to retreat and consolidate their gains rather than risking overextension and potential defeat.
It's like that saying, pride comes before a fall.
And this brings us to the final law of power, Law 48, which I think encapsulates a lot of what we've been discussing today. Assume formlessness.
Assume formlessness. What does that even mean?
Well, this law emphasizes the power of adaptability and the importance of being fluid and responsive to changing circumstances, recognizing that rigidity and inflexibility can lead to stagnation and ultimately defeat.
So it's about being flexible, adaptable, and willing to change your approach depending on the situation.
Exactly. It's about being like water flowing around obstacles, adapting to the shape of the container, and ultimately finding a way to overcome any challenge through flexibility and resilience.
I love that analogy. It's about being open to new ideas, new approaches, and new ways of thinking.
Exactly. Greene contrasts the rigidity of the Spartan social system, which ultimately led to their decline, with the fluidity and adaptability of the Chinese game of Go, which emphasizes strategic retreat, encirclement, and indirect aggression.
So it's about recognizing that power is not static, but constantly shifting and evolving.
Yeah.
And to be successful in the game of power, you need to be able to adapt and evolve along with it.
It's a great way to put it.
Wow, we've certainly journeyed through the intricate world of power dynamics with Robert Greene's 48 Laws, haven't we?
We have. It's been quite a journey.
I have to admit, some of these laws really challenge conventional thinking.
They do. Greene's work forces us to confront the often unspoken realities of power and to think strategically about how we navigate these complex dynamics in our own lives.
What really stood out to me is how many of these laws emphasize the importance of perception and social intelligence.
Yeah.
It's not just about being competent or talented. It's about understanding how to present yourself, how to influence others, and how to shape the narrative around your actions.
It's about being a master of the social game, recognizing those subtle cues and unspoken rules that govern human interaction.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways that our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Well, first and foremost, remember that power is not this fixed entity. It's fluid and dynamic, constantly shifting and evolving.
Okay, so we need to be adaptable.
We do. We can't just rely on the same strategies that worked in the past. We need to be constantly learning, growing, and adjusting our approach to fit the ever-changing circumstances.
And remember that power is often more about perception than reality. It's not enough to simply be good at what you do. You also need to be aware of the image you project and the story you tell about yourself.
Absolutely. Think about how you present yourself on social media, in your professional interactions, and even in your personal relationships. Are you communicating your value effectively? Are you projecting an image that aligns with your goals and aspirations?
Another key takeaway that really resonated with me is the importance of relationships. Power is not about isolating yourself or trying to dominate others. It's about building alliances, cultivating networks of influence, and understanding the dynamics of social interaction.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that true power lies in the ability to leverage those connections to achieve your goals.
So we need to be skilled communicators, good listeners, and masters of the art of persuasion.
Those skills are essential in the game of power. You need to be able to connect with others on a human level, build rapport, and inspire trust.
And finally, as we wrap up, I think it's important to remember that power is a responsibility. It's not something to be taken lightly or used for selfish gain.
You're absolutely right. It's about using your influence wisely and ethically to make a positive impact on the world.
Greene's 48 Laws of Power can be a dangerous book if it's misinterpreted or used for unethical purposes. But if you approach it with a critical mind and a strong moral compass, it can be an invaluable tool for understanding the dynamics of power and using that knowledge to achieve your goals and make a positive difference in the world.
As you move through your own life, pay attention to the subtle power dynamics at play in your workplace, your social circles, and your personal relationships. Observe how people use these laws, both consciously and unconsciously, to influence and persuade others.
And most importantly, remember that true power comes not from dominating others, but from mastering yourself.
It's about cultivating self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and a deep understanding of human nature.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 48 Laws of Power. We hope you've gained some valuable insights that you can apply to your own life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of your own potential.